What is up, people? We're back with Down the Middle Podcast. I'm Ryan.
I'm Nomal.
And we're talking about Russia versus America Part 2, or America versus Russia Part 2, because we're Americans. I'm putting America first.
There you go.
America first is very controversial. So, Russia versus America Part 2. Basically, we're talking about military presence today. We're talking about the Russian military, the American military. We had this American military ad that was released just a couple days ago compared to a Russian military ad. And just like some changes we're seeing in the American military that may not fully support the idea that we care about being that world power, and we're taking the steps to make sure that we still are.
Yeah, basically in this video, we want to kind of give where we're at in America in terms of military support and developments in the military versus Russia and their developments in military presence and support as well. And what we've been seeing as an overall theme is that I feel like America's military at least have not been focusing on the right things, or rather it's portrayed as not focusing on the right things.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily supportive of our leader that we have currently.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, the Russians are firing away.
And just the idea of this little mini-series is that America is currently the world leader. We are the strongest country in the world, and that's something that needs to be maintained, and we need to acknowledge, and we need to kind of make sure that we stay in that spot, because the world is a better place when America is the leader of that world. And just something we want to poke at in this video and just make sure that we make known is that we're all for equality in all different workforces. We're all for success of all people. It doesn't matter if you're gay, straight, lesbian, transgender. I don't care what you are. I want you to be successful. But then we also need to look at that idea that the military is a different animal than anything else. There's nothing like the military. Nothing. There's no work. It doesn't matter if you make $2 trillion a year. There's nothing like the military. It needs to be looked at differently and treated differently.
Yeah, and we've been so completely blessed to not have experienced like major wars where they've completely switched like how society acts and like rules. Like in like World War I, World War II, like society was a completely different thing that we have right now.
Yeah.
We're not talking about technological advancements or like anything like that. It's just like how society was locked down, living in fear every day, that type of thing. And we'll go into the rest of this video, but also as like at the end, we'll just go into like how privileged we really are to be living in a country like America right now. Exactly.
Like one thing we spoke about before this video started is the permanency of military conflict compared to the non-permanency of economic failures and social failures. Like, let's say the capital gains tax going up to 41% or 48%. Yeah. Let's say that's a huge disaster. Then that can be fixed. That can be adjusted.
Yeah.
But you lose a war and you suffer from those repercussions for hundreds of years. Russia lost the Cold War and their currency got destroyed, and they're only starting to recover from it a couple of years ago. Germany just paid back their reparations from World War II. You lose these wars and it changes everything. So that's why we need to look at the military a little bit differently.
Yeah. Do you want to get into your stats first?
So let's go over some stats on it. And the American military is funded heavily more than, it's not even close. I think China sends $221 million on the military per year. America is $798 million. We spend 10 times more than Russia, a little more than 10 times on our military every year. This is why we have the strongest military in the world. Now, just to do some comparisons in terms of rates, we spend 3.4% of our gross domestic process in the military. Russia spends 4.5%. So in terms of what they have to spend, they are spending more proportionally than we are. Yeah. The reason that, and we spoke in the last video about the pipelines, about, well, it's great that we have more money to spend. We want to make sure that we always have more money than them, because then it comes down to who's willing to spend more on their military. Russia is willing to spend more from what they have on their military. Russia spending has increased by 2.5% annually for the past couple of years. So they're increasing their military budget just like America does usually, even though sometimes when Democrats come into office, our military budget does go down a little bit, but the military budget is so high that it's not really that big of an issue.
Yeah, I think so. Being America, and like I said, like hopefully we sustain that position, being a leader of the free world. And I know I keep on saying that, but it's just true. Like we really are. Having things like a high military budget is almost crucial. Like it's imperative really to have and to sustain our position in the world. And be able to help out those countries that are less privileged than us. That's really the biggest part. But when it comes to, like, for example, like Russia, right? Like, a lot of people don't like Putin, and we all know the type of person Putin is. Like, yeah, like right now we'll say he's like, a quote unquote a great leader for Russia, but at the same time he does have his downfalls. So and a lot of people like believe like he's like a dictator, which to a certain extent that's definitely true. So imagine a country like Russia rising to be the leader of the free world, and then now it's their responsibility to take care countries that are not privileged, what do you think will happen in those countries? Just exploitation, really.
Yeah, exactly. And just like and Joe Biden doesn't have the support of the military troops that presidents in the past have had.
Right, not even close.
You can mention, we saw two videos, and one of the videos actually there's a very easy juxtaposition between the Ronald Reagan's presidency and Joe Biden's presidency, because it's a Ronald Reagan quote that Joe Biden uses.
Yeah, so Biden was, I believe it was like 3-4 days ago, the Biden was talking to the Coast Guard Academy, the graduating class, rather, and he kind of stated a line that Reagan said, and the exact line is, the Coast Guard is the hard nucleus about which the Navy forms around in times of war. And at the time when Reagan said that for the first time, the whole place erupted. It was great atmosphere, great vibes. But so Biden tried to state that in the most recent great vibes. Yeah, I know. I really couldn't come up with a different word. I wish I did. But it is what it is.
That's true. It was a really good vibe that hip got put off by that quote.
And then Biden said the same exact thing. He said the same exact verbatim.
It's the hard nucleus that the country forms around when the war.
And no one clapped. No one clapped or said. It was really, it was crickets. And I guess Biden didn't like that. And he stated, wow, you guys are really a dull class. And that's a branch of military. It's just disrespectful to say that to people that serve the country.
Yeah, and this is the graduating class. The Coast Guard basic training is actually very difficult. Coast Guard is looked at as the least branch of the military. We kind of have the hierarchy, but they have a tough basic training. It's 9 weeks long, I believe, and they go through a lot. This is their graduation. You get called dull by the president of the United States.
As a leader of the U.S., right? You want your branches of military to support you. You don't say things like that would be insulting to a graduating class. And really, how does that make you look? You don't support your own service.
But even on a different level, just as a speaker, you want your words to incite emotion. Even if you
good
weren't
emotion,
the president,
not I'm dull. Really?
Yeah, any speaker. We make this podcast. You want people to like it. If you want people to clap, then say something clap-worthy.
Yeah, not something that's going at the character of another individual, and especially as a president, to really talk to that, to not even citizens, to people in the military, I think is really, really disrespectful.
Yeah. And
it goes into, and this is not the first time that Biden has done this, and it just goes to show that how there's a reason why he doesn't have support from any other branch in the military. Mm-hmm. And there's another video actually that happened back in September when he was running.
And this was 2020. Just to jump in, it was crazy this video didn't get more coverage, because I saw it and I was like, wow, this is really...
Did not get any coverage.
This is scary.
Yeah, very scary. But he was talking to the Army. I'm not sure if it was graduating class. I don't think so.
It was just a group of Army members. Yeah.
And he was expressing how he had good judgment. Mm-hmm. And his first line was first, I have good judgment because I married Jill. And then he made another statement. I really didn't remember it. You lost me. I have married Jill, but nobody said anything. And then he said, "Clap for that, you stupid bastards," to the Army. I can't really think of any situation where that's a good line. In any instance, especially in a speech to the military. I wouldn't even. Why would I say that?
Yeah.
Clap, you stupid bastards. That's your own fault for not getting a reaction. It's your job. If you're going to speak to people, it's your job to get a reaction. It's your job to have a great speech. It's not anybody else's job to compensate for your speech.
Yeah, I think the issue with Joe Biden is that you never know when he's joking. You never know when he's serious. He looks like he's on his way out during every sentence. It's just tough to tell when he's joking and saying stuff. And Ted Cruz, people just fall asleep. Those Army guys got tough jobs, all right? These guys they work 14-hour days. You're going to come in and speak in that tone that you do, and I don't know. Sleep off standing up.
Yeah, and you want the support of those people. At the end of the day, when it comes down to, especially in times of war, you're going to need their support, and you want them to believe in our mission and our message, right? And having a loss of the support from those branches of the military is the last thing we need, on top of the list of things that Biden's already done to make us look weak as a country.
Yeah, and we want to talk about, it's insane because obviously as the commander-in-chief, as military members, we answer to you. You are the one who makes these declarations of war, and for a lot of reserve units and reserve units, really, we're called into action when he says so. So you definitely want your people. I know that in Fort Hamilton is where I do the whole military processing, all my testing. They have this an amazing wall where you have the hierarchy of all our top officials, where you have, it used to be Trump, and then you had Pence, and then the Secretary of State, and then all the generals and the majors underneath them, and it's a great thing. You walk in there, you feel a sense of pride. These are the people I serve, who I listen to, and who will guide me in the right way. You want that support from those people, and just like to further push home the point of the fact that Russia is seemingly more. They're seemingly bigger into becoming that world power than America is just this military ad that we saw the other day where the army dropped an ad about this girl who she grows up with 2 moms in Los Angeles and how the recruiter, I mean, you watched the video more recently than I did. I just know that it was big on inclusivity and big on...
Yeah, so you can just go over
go over the video quick. So basically, I watched it a week, I think 4 or 5 days ago when it first dropped. Okay.
Yeah, so basically, I'll start off with the American Army ad. Basically, it was just goes into how she was a little girl, had 2 moms, saying how she was fighting for equality her whole life, and then shows like the wedding of her mom, 2 moms, and then goes into how she found the army, and then I found a recruiter, and then I was able to express my inner self.
And I don't mean to laugh at this, but I went through the recruiting process, and just to hear this,
right, and then thankfully the video that I found had both videos, and they were comparing both videos. So when I saw that, then I saw the Russian ad for the military.
Can I talk about the Russian ad, please? Can I please talk about it?
Okay.
The Russian ad is sick. Oh my goodness.
It looks like a Call of Duty trailer.
The usual army advertisement is this amazing video where like we're flying in on helicopters and it goes through all these transitions and you got like the engineer and the medical corps guy, the special forces guy. It's amazing. And it says, "Find your soldier, goarmy.com." It's sick. It's so cool. That's the stuff that I joined the military for. That stuff, like the really cool stuff. And now this Russian ad, it looks like I feel like I was at what's the thing, E3? What's that big game con they do? There's one in June they do where they reveal all the games.
Yes, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I don't know what it's called.
I forget what it was called. We used to be bigger into that. But I felt like I was watching the new Halo trailer where they got the guy with the mask on and he's loading the sniper rifle. He wakes up from bed. He's like 2% body fat.
2% body fat or something. Like
he's freaking jacked. He's bald. It's just sick.
Doing push-ups. He's sniping in the snow.
Yeah.
He's jumping off of airplanes.
I was like, where can I buy this game? And then it says Russian military. I was like,
I was going to get a one-way ticket to Moscow and join the Russian military after that video. That was ridiculous.
The idea is that it's not to say that Russian soldiers are better than American soldiers. They're not.
No, not at all.
But, like, that is such a sick ad. And just, like, I want to get into stats about it all, but just, like, the idea of it is that you put that ad out because this is what you want for your military. Yeah. I am completely fine. Like we spoke about, I want our fighting force to be the strongest fighting force in the world. I don't care if it's 200% transgender. I don't care if it's all women. I don't care if it's chickens. If
that's the best army that'll produce the best results, then go for it.
Exactly. But the way to advertise for that military to be the best is to put out an ad that shows military strength, that shows military training, that shows what you're going to be doing. It's not an ad that says, hey, if these are your traits, this is your skin color, this is what you believe in, then you might make a good soldier. It's to say, if you can fight and you love our country and you want to defend it, then you would be a good soldier. Do
you want to get into stats first and then we'll break down videos?
Because we have a lot of opinions about this.
We have a lot of opinions, so we'll get to the opinions right
statistics about, and just the premise of it is that, hey, America is the strongest military in the world. Everything we've been doing for the past, since our nation has been conceived, we've become the strong. We defeated Britain, who was an empire, and we're just a ragtag team of guys. We came together and beat Britain by throwing some tea into the water and hiding behind trees.
They still haven't lived it down.
They still, yeah. The 4th of July is a sad day.
Sad day for them.
But just some statistics, like, there's been kind of like a pushback against conservatism in America in general, in the military too, but military members are more conservative than Democrat or liberal. I mean, a Gallup poll, and this was a Democratic poll that was done, showed that 34% of veterans said that they were Republican, while 29% of veterans said they were Democrats. But I say it was a Democrat-leaning poll because then they did a poll where 26% of civilians said they were Republican and 38% of Democrats said they were Democrat. So obviously, the difference between our Republican and Democrat voters is not 12%. It's much closer to 2 or 3% at any given time. So even in a Democrat-favored poll, it shows a 5% difference between Republicans and Democrats when it comes to the voting box. A Military Times poll said that 57% of military members vote conservative. The liberal numbers were lower because there's a big independent base in the military too, which usually makes up like 20 to 30%. So a big difference between conservatives and liberals in the military. If you're going to push back against conservatism, you're going to push back against American... Like, conservatives support traditional American values. It's why we are called conservatives. And I'm not saying that liberals are weak. I'm not saying that they don't they don't want to fight for their nation. They can't be strong people. But some of those American values are strong independence, are a willingness to fight for the flag and all this stuff. And if you're going to push back against that conservatism, then you're going to kind of push back against these people who have made us the strongest military in the world for the last 250 years. I flipped to the wrong page. I went back. So there was another poll. So obviously we've went away from the systemic patriarchal ideas that we were built on, and the white male is the only race that matters ideas we were built on. So American vets from the past, the American armed forces used to be 91% male. Now we're at an 85 to 15%. This is reserve and active duty. 85 to 15% male to female proportion. And the Russian military is 5 million troops bigger than ours. They have 3 million. We have 2.5 million. We have a bigger active. So in the military, you can be active, which means you deploy out, or reserve, which means you sit back until it's time to go to war. We have a bigger active base than they do, but their overall military is bigger than ours. Their military is 11%.
So do they have like a big reserve? Is that how that works?
We have a bigger active. They have a bigger reserve, though.
Right?
Yeah. I think their reserve.
So most people are in reserve.
Their reserve is like 2 million compared to 1 million active. Our active is just over 1 million, and then our reserve is in the 900,000 range, and then our deployed is about 200,000.
I see.
I think 165,000 is our deployed. So, and just like looking at this ad about, so you have the inclusivity one, and the young girl she has 2 moms, and she fights for equality. She does all these amazing things that show just liberalism in its purest form, just good, positive change. Then you have the correlation between the fact that she is this person, and then this is why she should be in the army.
Yeah.
There's no mention of battle. There's no mention of fighting. There's no mention of, like the Russian ad has, with working out and all this stuff that you do in the military. It scares me a little bit, because if these are the premises that you're going to say, these are the requirements you put in to be in the military, is that we're going to shift to inclusivity, we're going to shift to just this vastly diverse base. If I can be frank, I don't care what your background is. I just care that you can fight, and you need to know that that's what you're going to do in the military. Is you're going to work, you're going to fight, and you're going to stand up for America. That's what the ad should say.
Yeah, that ad really made me feel some type of way. Like it's really scary, honestly. In simple terms, it's really scary to see an ad like that, because what exactly are we portraying in this country in terms of the army, right? And it's just like, why are we playing identity politics in a military ad? Yeah, sure, identity politics is like a hot topic in the U.S., sure, but like in terms of the military, that's not where in my opinion, that's not where identity politics should reside in. Like, was it necessary for us to know her whole background, life story? Like, was it necessary for her to know that she had 2 moms, or that she was fighting for equality her life, and then she had to project her inner self? Like, in that Russian ad, we had no idea what his name was, where he's from, if he had parents or not. That's because at the end of the day, at the end of the day, for real. At the end of the day, when you're on the battlefield, nobody's gonna ask you that. Nobody cares, because you're fighting for your country and you're fighting for freedom. At the end of the day,
they just care about the flag on your shoulder. They don't care about anything. They don't care what's underneath that.
And we have it so easy in the U.S. and in terms of life. Like, there are people out there that are struggling to survive. Like, there are kids in Palestine going to sleep at night, not knowing whether or not they'll wake up their parents the next morning because of bombings. There's kids in Yemen, not sure if they'll have enough food for the rest of the week, right? And we're here trying to play identity politics in a military ad. Yeah. Like, how does that look?
And just some more stats is that, like, the American population is 0.6% transgender. It's 5, and this one's surprising. It's only 5% LGBTQ.
Like, for the whole military?
Yeah. Okay. No, for the whole population.
In the U.S.?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I thought it was higher than that. This was from 2019, so I mean, it could have went up, but only 5%. You're not going to convince more people to join these groups. You're not going to convince people to become transgender or become LGBTQ with a military ad. You're trying to convince people to join the military. So why not make that ad military based instead of LGBTQ based? Because like, if we look at that Russian stat where you have 11% of the Russian military are females, and you look at that Russian ad, which doesn't mention gender, background, like you say, doesn't mention anything about her, and you have these Russian people coming out to join, these Russian women coming out to join the military. And just like something I wanted to touch on is that, like, this Russian ad is attracting women. You know, soldiers find the battlefield, whether you push it on them, whether you make whatever you make the prerequisite is to join the military. If you're a soldier, you're meant to be a soldier, you find the battlefield. And soldier does not have a racial component to it, doesn't have a gender component to it, doesn't have a social class component to it.
It doesn't care.
Soldiers are soldiers. They always have been. And that is proof by Russia, because you have an ad that does not care where you're from. It cares if you can fight, and 11% of that Russian military is women.
Yeah, and also, like, how are you portraying war? You know,
exactly.
Like,
yeah.
Like that last line on the American ad was like, I was able to show the strength of my inner self or something. Like, that's not the Army's job to do that. Like, and war is a scary, scary thing. Like, you'll find if anything, you'll find more of your weaknesses and what you're truly terrified of in war.
Yeah.
And it's just like almost glorifying it in a sense.
Yeah, and the military is an amazing thing for what it can do for an individual.
Yeah.
It can just discipline and just professionalism and structure and fitness and just so many different things that it teaches you. It's amazing, but just like you say, it's not about just like expressing your emotions and your feelings. It's not your recruiter doesn't care about that stuff. When I think that the ad says that the recruiter helped her.
I found my the whole line was I found my recruiter and I was able to show my inner strength or something like that.
Yeah,
along the lines of that.
The job of the recruiters is to get soldiers, to get Marines, to get sailors, to get Air Force, to get airmen. Yeah. That's the job of the recruiter. And just like you say, you don't want to fabricate war in a certain way that paints it less than what it really is. War has never changed from when we had our first conflicts thousands of years ago to now. War hasn't changed. War is death. War is fighting. War is physical. If you're gonna prioritize having corporate vason and over like a real soldier, then you're gonna paint out what war is to people who aren't ready for it, and that's a scary thing because. And just another thing, military training is getting a lot easier too. Army training standards are going down.
Standards, yeah.
They took out the shark attack, which used to be like when you get there, they really like swarm you. They like really beat you down on that first day. And they took that out. They've taken out a lot of these things that made you know you're joining the Army, you're going to be beat down physically immensely, you're going to come out a different person. They're taking a lot of that stuff out to kind of suit a larger base, and it just doesn't seem like the best thing.
Yeah, and then on the flip side of that, China and Russia are making their militaries as strong as possible.
Yeah.
And they're basically maintaining that intensity and like those standards of having that army, and you could obviously see in the ad like Russia's not playing around at all, and then China's working in the back like silently, you know.
We don't even need to speculate about what China's doing.
Yeah, we know. It's they're working. They're putting that work in the dark. But it's just a scary position to be in America as an American right now.
Yeah, and just like the idea is that like America will never be destroyed from an outside force.
It would never be.
No one will ever come here and take America down, but we will destroy ourselves from the inside. Abraham Lincoln said, "A house divided will fall."
Yeah.
So like that's the only
way.
Where
the most divided has been, and this is the most amount of tensions we've had like
in a long time. Yeah. Since
nice.
That was nice. Yeah.
So
we
like do that a lot.
Yeah, we do that. It's not even in the notes either.
Yeah.
But like so a house divided will fall, and just like we have this American division, and now you have a real knockdown on traditional American values. It's like the liberal mindset is that nothing traditional about America can stand. We have to take it all away because it all leads to racism and patriarchy and all these negative things that we have. But if there can be one conservative thing that we should just let be, is having the strongest military in the world. I think that is something that we should just let stand forever. And the fact that we can't come together on even that is a scary idea. Yeah. But I'm pretty much done with that one.
Yeah, I think. Do you have any more topics, or just more like closing comments?
I just want to say that just like we keep on pushing home, I support the idea of having all these different groups in the military. I really do. I don't, as someone who will be a lieutenant in the military, I don't care who's in my platoon. I don't care if you are, what your racial background is, what your sexual preference is. I don't care. I care that you can get the job done.
That's all that matters at the end of the day.
That is all that matters. And what I want to see from that military ad is emphasizing that. And the military doesn't accept you because you can get the job done. It accepts you because you have the potential and you're open to the possibility, you're open to the training that you will be able to get the job done.
Yeah.
You know, just like you say, it doesn't matter what that background is. It doesn't matter who you were before. All we need to know is that you're going to fight for that. You love our country, you're going to fight for it. And that Russian ad, man, oh my goodness. That guy, I would not want to run into that.
Yeah.
He looked mean.
I would not want to run into him.
He wasn't just jacked. He didn't just have a sniper rifle. He looked mean.
Yeah.
Like someone just like ate his porridge that morning or something. He was just walking around just like this. He was like,
Yeah. But yeah, just so that's definitely one theme that we wanted to like drive home. And then I think the second theme in terms of current events, what we've been seeing, like, you know, in terms of like the U.S. and Russia, Russia has been climbing the ladder slowly but surely.
Yeah.
And also, we're kind of boosting them up on that ladder. We're also helping them with that ladder. So that's really the
We just
most.
love helping our enemies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Iran, funding Russia.
Yeah, and then at the same time, we kind of let Russia go up the ladder first, and then we're screwing ourselves because Russia's going to reach the top first. I mean, this is how I'm visually portraying it in my mind. I know it's kind of weird. I don't know if it's weird or not, but we're also just at the bottom, just like doing nothing and just not making the right choices, not having the right actions, and really it just comes down to our leader and how he's really handling the situations.
Turtle versus the hare, man.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's it. We get complacent. You stay in one place, and then you watch as your adversary slowly creep up on you. Then you fall asleep. And right now, America is asleep. We're literally asleep because this Russian stuff is not mainstream news. You're not hearing about the Nord Stream pipeline. You're not hearing about these military stats.
And we're not sleeping giant right now either. We're just sleeping.
We're just snoozing. Like we just got our feet up in the hammock with a coconut, man.
Man, I wish I was like that right now.
What?
I mean, me personally.
Oh
yeah, no, not the U.S.
The Russians have infiltrated.
Ochinda. I mean, that means very yes. Don't say Ochinda. The Russians will get mad.
We don't want to make the Russians mad.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's basically it. I mean, scary stuff. Joe Biden needs to take control of this. He needs to. And unfortunately, what may have to happen is that sometimes you need to suffer from those drawbacks of your failures to understand that they're failures, because it can be tough for some people to realize how their actions are going to negatively occur. Like, you know, how stuff is going to go wrong.
It's in simple terms, it's like learning the hard way.
Yeah.
I really pray and hope that we don't have to learn the hard way.
Because when it comes to the military, learning the hard way is a lot more serious.
And that in terms of like, if we lose that power, it's going to take much more than like, it's going to take many years of work to get that power back. And I don't think that's in a position that America, we don't want America to be in that position at all.
I don't. I'm going to be there. I don't want to go through that, you know?
Yeah.
I want us to be the strongest force in the world. I want to be surrounded by the best soldiers. I don't want to be surrounded by Stacy, who thought that she could join the military because she had 2 moms. And then she gets there and she's like, we have to do push-ups? What?
I didn't see a single push-up in the American ad.
There wasn't a single push-up. You know how many push-ups you do in the military? You got to do like 300 before you even sign up.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you guys get the message of what we're trying to say, but just let us know what you guys think.
Yeah.
You know, comment, like, subscribe, you know, the usual. And yeah, that's pretty much it on my end.
We'll catch you soon. We'll see you guys later.
Peace.